In a very interesting morning here, so on Tuesday's morning at the NTV, but thank you so much for still keeping it with us. We illuminate you on another discussion yet again, rights of persons living with mental health. Now, mental health challenges can be viewed as psychosocial disabilities. In 2006, the UN adopted the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which aims to promote, protect and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights by all persons with disability. Uganda was one of the first countries to ratify the UN CRPD, and nevertheless, people with mental health challenges in Uganda continue to face discrimination, violations of their rights, including but not limited to their right to health, their right to liberty, their right to own property, their right to education, their right to work, their right to family life, and so on and so forth. Later on in 1966, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights expanded the right to health, and that was included in Mental Health Article 12. These rights have been sustained by the Banjul Charter and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. We are joined by Maria Teresa Kagoya, who is going to be giving us perspective. She is the legal officer with the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. Good morning to you, Maria Teresa.
Good morning to you, Nara.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Okay, so let's start off by giving us an understanding in regarding to Uganda when it comes to the state of rights for persons living with mental illness. What are the statistics? So where do we stand in regards to that conversation?
In Uganda, out of 100, you find 35 people are facing the problem of mental illness, but it's not really an illness, but it's a mental disability because it moves from just being sick, but we are constrained by the environments we stay in. The people we work with, the community we associate with, it's not an illness as such, but it's just a disability because of the structures in place. Yes.
Okay. Over time, I've seen a slow but progressive introduction of institutions or facilities to cater to mental health affiliated maybe illnesses or disease or shortfalls. When it comes to these, are we having enough to cater to the 35 out of 100 that you're talking about in terms of the country as a whole, on regional analysis?
When you look at Uganda, our population is far beyond 40 million. And when you look at Butabika Hospital, it has it can only admit 550. Those are the beds. Yet it admits 1,500 plus. When you look at Mulago, the mental health unit, it can only admit 50. Yet it's a referral hospital, and it has to admit more.
Wow. So
we are looking at 13 other hospitals, other referral hospitals, but how they can admit between 40, 50, yet we are looking at 35 out of 100 per 100 Ugandans you find. We cannot manage with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to us about these particular rights that need advocacy when it comes to people with mental illness especially.
The rights, we are looking at your personal liberty, seclusion. We are far from now using the seclusion method to using the community care, whereby we need to treat those people within our communities. We are looking at now the case, we are handling a case of Benon Kabale. He was secluded in Butabika Hospital for more than 24 hours. Not given food, nothing. He was left to sleep on the bare floor. He didn't have even the facilities to use, and he was left there for some time. We are now moving. The CRPD tells us to move from that and move to the community care. When you look at the community care, we are looking at these people staying in our homes, and we shall look after them. The counseling goes on, but it goes on within the homes where they stay.
But if you say homes, given the state, I mean, there's different grades of state that these people can be in. So when you say community care, are you not then infringing on the rights of the others that are within the community?
we are looking at rights of both the other people who do not have the mental disabilities and the rights of the persons with the mental disabilities. The rights of others should not, the rights of the persons with mental disabilities are also rights, and then we are looking at everyone having a balanced life. Everyone has rights, so everyone should live within the same environment. We, the people who do not have the mental disabilities, should help the others to cope with the process. Most people with mental disabilities would look at the psychosocial, very distressing disabilities, but we are looking at people who have stress that can accumulate, and people will tend to want to kill themselves because of just stress. So will you push that person to Butabika Hospital? That person is supposed to be within our community. You counsel them, you talk to them, and bring them back on board.
Well, Maria Teresa, then that means that we have a lot of demystifying to do, especially community-based demystifying, because the idea is isolate them so that they can get the quote-unquote desired treatment, even though they have a right to health. So in that regard, how are you able to then help communities break those barriers and demystify the notion that if someone is considered with a mental illness, seclusion is the first and best alternative?
The communities already have the stigma and the discrimination goes on. But what we have to do as a whole, we are supposed to educate the communities and inform them that these people come from within your community. We need to broaden the spectrum and look at it in a positive manner, and also the government is supposed to come in. This is when the mental health advisory board comes in, but it's not yet in place. Yet the law has been there since 2018. So the mental health advisory board is supposed to come in and do the work. With the civil society doing the work, it's not enough. The mental health advisory board is supposed to also invest in that and educate the community that this is what we are supposed to do as the community to help these people.
All right. What other challenges are faced by both individuals that are incapacitated in that regard and communities, as well as a health sector by and large?
The health sector, we are looking at the health sector where the financing is limited. According to the statistics, approximately $2 per person or less is invested into the mental health. So you cannot force the hospital, yet the hospital also relies on the government for funding. We need to have the general funding from the government to support the hospitals, to support the psychiatrists, to even educate the psychiatrists who will help these people. Then we are looking at these people having problems at the hospitals already, because the hospitals cannot handle them, and they cannot get the care they deserve. They are discriminated against, they are stigmatized. Even in employment opportunities, you will look at someone, they will tell you, but you have this, we cannot employ you. We need to take away the stigma first, then we can help the society as a whole.
Okay, all right. Let's look at Mental Health Act. It does allow for health professionals to admit people with mental health challenges, and this is without their consent or will per se. How is this actually challenging the right to health of the person? Because there's those cases that are really extreme.
Those extreme cases, it goes back to the CRPD. We are looking at the Article 12 and Article 14 of the CRPD, whereby you cannot take away anyone's liberty. We are looking at these people, they have a right to consent. That person is not going to have that condition for a long time. There is that, we call it that, there is that period of extreme, then there is that period of sanity. You have to wait for the period of sanity. You shouldn't force them.
And if the period of sanity does infringe on the right to life of the person, isn't that conflict?
But you cannot just force them. You need at least 3 medical reports to force a person to get that treatment. And even you need a court to sanction it.
Okay. What other provisions are there in the Mental Health Act, actually, that do aid these rights to be protected for those that have mental illness?
We are looking at consent. Then we are looking at the ability for you as a person to have your retain your privacy, your personal liberty. If you have a problem, then no one should have access to your reports. And if one needs access, they need to report to you. You do not lose everything because you have a mental problem.
Okay.
You do not lose your liberty, you do not use your privacy.
Okay.
You still have them.
When it comes to the promotion of these rights for people with mental illness, how do we get to promote these rights on individual basis, community basis? The health facilities that you're talking about, the health workers themselves, are they aware of these rights in the first place when they're dealing with these cases? It's another whole debate.
We are looking at family first. What the family is supposed to do is to support. The family, where the family is supportive, a person suffering from any mental illness will get the courage to get the treatment, to accept treatment and move on. Then we are looking at the community. The community, what we are supposed to fight most in the communities is stigmatization. In the communities, so we do a lot. Uganda is a global village whereby we work as communities. We need to fight stigmatization and discrimination that happens by the communities. And the communities have to embrace these people and serve them as way other people are being served. And we then look at the government as a whole. The government is supposed to help us educate and also help us create the mental health board as early as yesterday. Then we are looking at the government also funding, to increase the funding. Then we are looking at the physicians who are supposed to care for these people the way they care for any other sick person.
Okay, all right. With CFROT, in what you're doing, what is the way forward for us as a country? How do we get to protect and enhance these people enjoying their rights through their mental state?
Then as CFROT, what we are doing, we are trying to educate people through media, and we also pursuing a case, and this case has been in court for some long time, since 2012 to date. So what we are saying that if we bring a case before you as the judiciary, we need that case to be expedited because it affects someone's rights. That person who is being whose rights are being infringed on by anyone, it happens every day. In that when we bring to you a case as the judiciary, you're supposed to provide us with an adequate means to stop the infringement. Then for the government, I think the government needs to create the mental health board as early as possible because it's the one supposed to protect and also to educate to stop the infringement.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, Maria Teresa, for that information, and I trust that it has added value to you, especially in times where you do have mental health becoming a serious issue for us in society. She has mentioned that out of every 100 people you're going to cross paths with, 35% of them are actually most likely having a mental issue. So do the mathematics. Are you the 35 or are you in the other balance? Please get all the help and support that you can get all the psychosocial support that you can get. Facilities are now available to us and it's public. You can walk in there and get the treatment or get your loved one treatment. Another conversation that we also had earlier was about the period positive workplaces, and while we do have so many workplaces that have adopted and put condoms in different corners in bathrooms and what to help people fight HIV and AIDS, perhaps now is the time to also consider a period positive workplace where you do put into consideration menstrual equity for the workplace, and that definitely will go a long way in ensuring effectiveness and efficiency. Away from that, as we go into the rest of the day, we do have a birthday